Hi, I'm Mariana Searle. I am a psychologist and also have a master's degree in behavior analysis. And I have dedicated 33 years of my life to psychotherapy and have done over 36,000 therapeutic consultations. So by this time, I have gathered, I think, a pretty good idea about how the human mind works. So I'm really happy today to be able to invite you to my free webinar on Wednesday about the 3 biggest misconceptions my clients have about anxiety after searching through the internet. Okay, so click this link right down here and register for my free webinar on Wednesday. And if you stay till the end, I will send you a private video on how I understood and solved by myself my own social anxiety problem. My results are not typical and I cannot guarantee the solution to any psychological problem. My products are only meant to be a guide. At least in my experience, when we explore, in a session, what is anxiety about for each one, usually these kinds of thoughts come up. And these are the kinds of thoughts that people are usually not really conscious about having these kinds of thoughts. Like I drew before, the head with the thought around the head means that I am immersed in these kinds of thoughts. Yeah. So this drawing is more of an example of what a real, an actual situation would be, in which if you explore, for example, what are your main concerns? And this is what starts coming out. I feel guilty about something. On another aspect, I think I feel like I won't be able to do things. I'm afraid. It's several worries that have to do with your life or things that are going on in your life. And also there are some examples of like these general conclusions, like everything is wrong, or I am ridiculous. I'm not okay. I'm not an adaptive person. I feel overwhelmed. There's many like very specific things, or there's many like general thoughts about your life. So in a way, this drawing portrays what I describe as being immersed in feelings that have negative emotions associated to them, and that'll of course will be linked to anxiety.
Yeah.
Because there are thoughts about not being able to do things. There are thoughts about what's going on in your life, in your environment. There's thoughts about maybe your symptoms going wrong, or maybe your symptoms meaning that there's something else wrong with yourself, etc. So this is in general like a very common scenario for a first consultation. Especially when clients will say, I'm here for my anxiety. I've had like panic attacks, or I feel anxious all the time. And when we start talking about what's going on, tell me what your main concerns are, like I said before, and then this starts coming up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not at all easy to find this out in a first session.
Yeah.
This
you
will
just
probably
know you just know you feel bad in general, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because when I'm feeling anxious, I just have like a general feeling of anxiety. I'm probably not really kind of connecting what I'm feeling with what I'm thinking. So sometimes this would be like an exercise, like a home exercise, to go find out, to maybe try to connect what you're feeling, your anxiety, with some thoughts. And either way, when you ask about your main concerns, a lot of these things will come up. So this first drawing is also helpful to show someone how overwhelmed they are with all these thoughts going on at the same time.
Yeah. How overwhelming it can feel, right, to have anxiety and you and you feel like you're like self-destructing or something with these negative thoughts that why am I being so mean to myself,
it's
right?
It's almost like anxiety would be part of an escape response. It's like, if I go to anxiety, then these thoughts, stop going on, and then I just feel anxious. but I'm not really connected to the fact that I'm thinking really awful things, or I'm concluding, awful things about everything in my life. So it helps to see yourself, and here we have a man portrayed, but I have also a drawing for a woman, because you also have to talk about gender issues. So we're seeing a man, but it could also be a woman. So this is like a first scenario that could, that will help someone see or understand what's going on. And the fact that they feel anxious is because they're full. They're thinking about all these thoughts all the time. And that's, like I've been saying before, that's connected to anxiety.
Yeah. Well, this is supposed to be like a metaphor slideshow on how the person would go about like ordering their thoughts and figuring out how to deal with these terrible feelings of anxiety, right?
Exactly. And like I was saying before, kind of like the first step into starting this anxiety workout would be to put yourself in the observer position about yourself. It's like, okay, I'm realizing that I'm having all these thoughts about my life, for example. It's like I need to kind of start looking at myself as someone that has all the, that is like, constructing or saying to himself all the time these kinds of things, because the thoughts are also things that I say to myself unconsciously.
I want to ask you a quick question about this. When I'm beating myself down with these thoughts, I shouldn't feel guilty that I'm doing it, right? I shouldn't tell myself, why would I be saying such horrible things to me, right?
Well, I think in a stage in which you just feel bad, you're not really in a position to look at yourself and doing all those things. Although sometimes anxiety is also like, the feeling of guilt about doing this to yourself is added.
Yeah.
But you're, unconscious. It's like, okay, I know that I'm doing this to myself, but then I feel so bad because I'm doing this, but I don't know how to deal with it. I just feel bad. But I think it's a rare thing or a rare experience to have people be conscious about that. This is something that it's not like, that you do to yourself, because then you could feel guilty. It's just something that happens. And I think I have to explain that to my clients all the time, because when we talk about, this drawing, people say, okay, so I am doing this to myself. And I go, no, it's not like you're, I've never in my life seen a person that is doing things to themselves on purpose, like knowing that they're going to hurt themselves and doing that. I have never seen that. This is just happening. It's just how, the human thought process works over time.
So we're going to go to the
Let's go to the next one. And
next slide.
Okay, so this is kind of, a way to describe what begins to happen when I, describe how I feel to someone else. In a way, I'm also, putting this order inside my thoughts and how I feel about my life. When I start talking about how I feel, and then I can identify these thoughts, this is what begins to happen. It's like, having a, a drawer that is all messed up, and then I open the drawer and start, putting things in order. At least to be able to describe your thoughts is already a way to put some order in your mind. And so this is like a drawing that is a metaphor for that process of putting things into perspective also, because when I start looking at my thoughts as thoughts and as opinions and conclusions about my life and things that could be challenged, that I could maybe learn different perspectives about how I conclude things about myself and what I say to myself about problems and my life, that this is like a first, I think, a first step in therapy in which people can really start and learning this perspective, dimension in which I can, question myself, what I'm thinking about and what I'm concluding. Sometimes these are just hard conclusions. I have like adopted them for my life. So being able to challenge and question them as I talk about them is a major advancement in therapy, I think.
Yeah. So this is like metaphor is like the computer. Like first you have like this sort of static in the background, like everything is messy, everything is like in disorder, and but at least I'm beginning to sort of like look at my thoughts, and they're all messed up, they're all disordered, but at least I'm sort of seeing them like.
That's true, and that's a very good observation, because when I'm, immersed in these negative thoughts, everything else is kind of blurred. Like I couldn't see either, any other possibility for my perspective in life. So these kinds of thoughts come to be the first thing that I think about myself every day. So it really gets really painful.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could ask, what if I just, talk to someone else? Sometimes I have been able to, myself, for example, if I talk to a good friend and tell her all these thoughts, and if you were talking about, to someone that is going to listen to you actively and is not going to judge what's going on with you and is able to help you explore these thoughts. Sometimes people do that naturally and don't, overjudge you. And hey, if if we could all, as humanity, learn how to do this process, maybe you wouldn't need to go to a professional all the time. But I think in general in life, we're not used to being able to listen actively to other people. We will jump to conclusions. We will judge, what's going on with that person. We will tell them what they have to do, and really not help them explore, their thoughts and help them go into perspective about what conclusion they're doing about their life. So in therapy, you do that in a systematic way. You help people, take this as a way to think about things, but not the only way to think about things.
Yeah.
So this is like a first step into putting these things, like I said, into perspective and analyze, which one of these is really has to do with reality, which ones of them are really just anxiety and abstract fears. Sometimes everything is just mixed up in your life, and maybe you're not even responding to real issues because you're just so immersed in these thoughts, and you just start avoiding everything, and maybe you start avoiding also dealing with real issues that you have to solve.
Yeah.
So putting them in order, organizing and finding out what's important and what's not, what's real and what's not, is really helpful to go to the next step, which is since I'm doing that and being able to put into perspective, and then on an everyday basis, these thoughts start kind of like the negative parts start kind of like fading away. And since I'm also being able to decide what's really important, what do I have to really deal with, what part of my emotions has to do with a reaction to real issues, because sometimes it is, and maybe real issues that I'm not even responding to.
Yeah.
And since that's mixed up with just fears and
it can be like, I need to do this task I'm postponing till my chest feels tight, right? It can be like everything negative can be like bundled together, and it can be very hard to cope with.
So maybe I'm avoiding to speak to someone that I really need to solve something with, because I'm feeling not okay, because I'm feeling that maybe I shouldn't. I feel guilty about doing it. I'm going to be mixed up in many other, escape responses that won't, what really let me take care of what really I have to in my life.
Yeah. So in this slide, continuing with the computer metaphor, we see that the images are not so highlighted anymore. They're like a little bit whitish now. Faded a little bit. And we see that the background is not only static now, but it's sort of like showing a different picture, like an image, something we can look at. Like
right.
That can be sort of like linked to the anxiety process, right?
Right, and it also has to do with the fact that when these, these horrible and negative thoughts start fading away, in the background, you can really start seeing kind of a life. It's like when I'm just questioning all these thoughts and working on them, there's, the blur part of the rest of the things starts, clearing up, and then I can see that there's more to my thoughts. We're going to talk about that in a little while, but then that has to do with, being really getting freeing space in your thoughts to be able to pay attention to what is in the background.
Yeah.
So we're going to moving on to the next one. And here, of course, I have, done a process of, dealing with these thoughts, putting them into perspective, putting an order to them in which I can decide what's really important to me and what not. Why am I feeling guilty, for example? Maybe I'm guilty because I have this feeling of guilt connected to something that I learned when I was, as a child, and then I have to work and go deep and to find out what's going on with that, and finding out why and how it is connected to my life now, and what things I'm feeling guilty about that are connected to that, for example. So when I'm in the process of dealing with my thoughts, I have an opportunity to get rid of what's really not important and hold on to what I have to deal with. So when I do that, really it becomes really something manageable.
Yeah.
And like I was saying before, literally your mind, your thought process, or however we want to call it, your inside, your how you feel inside of yourself, you're freeing space to feel, to go into reality, to go into the here and now of your human experience.
Free space in your computer.
Something like that. I think
in your mind.
I think computers are so much like a resemblance of what we are. Of course, much more complex and everything. But the computers, to myself, kind of resemble how our mind works.
Yeah. So sorry, before you pass to the next slide. In this image, we see that the background is nothing. There's no static left. There's only a beautiful image of a beach, and it sort of would be like the metaphor that as we sort of order our thoughts and put them into different boxes and make it all orderly now, we can start to see like our life is actually really beautiful, right? We can start to see the positive sides of our life, right?
Yes, something like that. But however, in a more metaphoric way, I think that the clear sightseeing of this beautiful beach kind of resembles the opportunity to be able to go sightseeing your life and what's going on every day. So you can take care of really, because I'm not trying to say that just by putting these thoughts in order, it's not like automatically like that. But when you take time to work with yourself and connect with yourself and try to find out what's going on and what are things connected to, and that's kind of like it helps to clear your mind, to be able to pay attention to the real things and to pay attention also to the here and now. We're so much thinkers. And if we have chosen unconsciously, or we have matters that we have to take care of, they will be like, I've been saying before, I think we have like an inner wisdom that will kind of bring topics to your conscience so that you can work them on. And sometimes the anxiety is like an escape response to deal with your real issues. So this in a way is saying that if we start working with ourselves, take care of of what's going on with our anxiety, then the possibility of reaching a new stage of development, actually a new stage of psychological well-being that will enable you to put into perspective, to learn to put every conclusion that you make about yourself and others into perspective. Mind and life and others, it's just so complex that if I'm concluding just one thing, I have to ask myself if is that the right thing that I have to conclude? How am I feeling about this? What do I have to do with this? So when we do that process, it's going to be highly likely that you're going to be finding yourself feeling better. And sometimes clients say, it feels weird to feel better because it's like I have nothing to think about or to worry about. Of course, because that freed up space for you to live, to enjoy what you're doing, to find out if you can, if you want to learn new things, anything that could, that you would want to make your life better and grow as a person is there for you. There's an opportunity. But sometimes I will be so immersed in all these thoughts that it's like life passes by and I'm feeling like I'm being stopped. I'm not going anywhere because I'm just kind of trapped in this kind of, the way I think about things.
Yeah.
So if we move on to the next one, that would be more likely if, I could, at this point, it's not that I won't have any worries. I mean, life is so complex that I will, but in a way, I have already put, all that process of being immersed in those thoughts, like it will be like a memory, nothing else but a memory, but also a learning process of how I can start challenging my own thoughts, put myself in the observer position, find out what's going on, take care of what's going on. Maybe I could, help myself by doing some readings. And the last video that we taped was about, the other things that help us deal with anxiety. It's not like you just have to do mind work to help yourself. We have to do many, many other things, like, have good nutrition, have, like a healthy life, which has many, many like supports and other things that I do, like, do exercise, do my breathing exercises. And we talked about, we kind of guided people to find out about what diaphragmatic breathing is and how it helps us with anxiety. So this is more like what we could, expect to do in a process in which it's not like I said we won't have anything to worry about or think about in our daily life. But
they will be minimized and put in a corner, sort of like in this image, like you minimize the window, you put it in the corner, and it doesn't mean that you're not ever gonna open it again, or you're never gonna see it again, or that your computer isn't using part of its power to use that program. It doesn't mean any of those things, but it does mean that it's now minimized and put it in a corner, and now you can look at it in a different perspective. It's not in your face and not letting you look outside of it, like looking at the beach or something.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I mean. So, and the next one is more like a conclusion.
Yeah.
And like you said before, I like that. It's like you minimized it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you won't access it again, because feeling fear it's also like an adaptive emotion. It helps you ask yourself some questions, and that's what we kind of have to learn to do, to ask ourselves some questions, like, why I have fear. Why do I feel fear? What is it connected to?
Yeah.
Is it something that I need to take care of? Is it just like a irrational fear that it means that I have to, some thoughts that have gone out of, control, and I have to, and they put me in a distortion, but then I have to go and take care of them? Or is it something that I have to really take care of? So today, Feel Positive would be like, like a resemblance of how we start feeling when we deal with, with these things.
Yeah, so this was like a great metaphor for the computer of how dealing with your anxiety process would and sort of the programs in your computer. Now we can see the image that they're not only minimized, but they're not even like blocking the screensaver, right?
Well, and that's the questions that many of my clients, especially when we work, for example, on obsessive ideas or phobias, and then I go, in time, you're going to be able to remember that this was part of your life at some point in time, but it won't use your screen space every day. Yeah. It won't use your thought screen every day. Yeah. They won't be there to,
blocking you.
Right, exactly. So it is
ruining your parties, your friends meeting, your whatever.
So you can really, actually, you will, or you can be able to go and flow into the here and now and the everyday experience.
Yeah.
And not really be so concerned and so over-occupied with thoughts.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you very much for this. This has been amazing. And see you soon, Mariana.
See you soon.